we get into this video, I want you to realize something. June 13th, 2015 was when the first Splatfest, Rice vs. Bread, took place. So from now on, when you drive past your local elementary school, I want you to realize that there are now 3rd graders that are younger than Splatfests. That's all. Remember to subscribe or this guy will be at your front porch next week. As we get closer to the final new Splatfest in Splatoon 3, and probably the final new Splatfest for a few years until Splatoon 4 is announced, I wanted to talk about all the Splatfests we've had up until this point. And I mean everything, from Rice vs. Bread to Rice vs. Bread vs. Pasta. Wait, we've just went in a circle! Over Splatoon's history, there have been over 100 unique Splatfest themes across all of the regions. Some of them are certified bangers, some of them are passable, and some of them you just gotta wonder how they got the okay. So I want to talk about some of my personal favorites and least favorites in this video. So let's get started with Splatoon 1. Splatoon 1, in my opinion, was the game with the most consistently great themes. You can't talk about Splatoon 1 Splatfest without bringing up the OG, the day one, the pioneer, cats versus dogs. Both because this is the debate to have with others, and because this was the only Splatfest in history to be delayed. For those of you who were introduced to the series in Splatoon 2 or Splatoon 3 and may be unaware, Splatfest used to not have mirror matches as a game mechanic. If you were on the most popular team, you had to wait until players from the other team came down the pipeline, however long that was. So, to clear things up, the real OG Splatfest was Rice vs. Bread, but that Splatfest only took place in Japan. Cats vs. Dogs was the first one to take place in the Americas, where I live. Rice vs. Bread was supposed to take place only 1 week before Cats vs. Dogs, but the wait times were so long during the prior that Nintendo delayed the latter until they could come up with a better way to make sure everyone got to play. Hence the birth of the mirror match. And this was for a team with a 60-40 split in popularity. Imagine how bad things would have been during mayo versus ketchup, or Friday versus Saturday versus Sunday if it weren't for mirrors. So for those of you who don't like mirror matches, just remember, at least you're playing the game. But anyway, Cats vs. Dogs was postponed to the 4th of July, and that extra wait made me even more excited for it. It was so exciting seeing Inkopolis at night on my own copy of the game and playing Urchin Underpass, Walleye Warehouse, and Kelp Dome for 24 hours straight. There were no map rotations in Splatoon 1 Splatfest. You played on 3 maps for the entire time. 12-year-old me kicked the crap out of Team Cats, as well as some members on Team Dogs, and helped Team Dogs win the Splatfest in a blowout. Okay, don't look at that. Another one of my favorites was Art vs. Science. This was actually the first Splatfest that I lost after being on Team Dogs, roller coasters, marshmallows, and Decepticons, but it was such a good theme and an extremely close result. As someone who's enjoyed astronomy and meteorology while sucking at things like drawing, I joined Team Science. Throughout the Splatfest, I remember hardly having any mirror matches, and the matches I had against Team Art were very close. So if you were on Team Art, extend your hand toward the screen. You played well. Win streak ruining little Splatoon 1 also excelled at collaboration Splatfest outside of Nintendo. There was the Autobots vs. Decepticons Transformers Splatfest I mentioned earlier, and the SpongeBob vs. Patrick Nickelodeon Splatfest. For the latter, I was on the team of our lovely Pinhead Larry and actually helped us win that Splatfest in a blowout. If there's one thing I love about the Splatoon community is that we never let the main character win, but we let their best friend or even their arch nemesis win. Happened here, happened here, happened here. We're really trying to be free thinkers out here. Now in Splatoon 3, can we get a bonus SpongeBob vs. Patrick vs. Squid vs. Splatfest? I mean, the colors are already there. And of course, I can't bring up Splatoon 1 Splatfest without bringing up Callie versus Marie. I was in the trenches fighting for Marie, both in-game and on the internet, doing everything in my power to make sure my queen won the final Splatfest, and all who aligned with the Disney diva in pink would be eviscerated. I'm lying. I had made my social media accounts like 3 months ago and joined Marie because she was a lax introvert that makes a bunch of backhanded comments just like me. I didn't even know there was drama around Idol Splatfest until the one in Splatoon 3 later down the line. I was just sitting there with my chocolate milk enjoying the festivities and fighting for Marie on Moray Towers because you sickos voted for that to be a map in the Splatfest. My god, what is wrong with you? But I enjoy both the Squid sisters. The fan art for both of them was fantastic, and Callie fans were tough, making this only a narrow win for Marie. You know, it wasn't a narrow Splatfest though. This Splatfest right here. Oh my god. This Splatfest was one of the worst ones in my memory, and not even because the theme was bad, but because I just got manhandled for 24 hours. I know Splatfest don't revolve around how one person does, but after playing that Splatfest, I still knew we could have just ended the night early and cut to the results at like the 4-hour mark. Team Nice got laid out like the freaking health inspector. For that entire fest, I could just hear Team Naughty singing, "Nice guys finish last, that's why I treat you like trash." It was just a freaking massacre. Splatoon 1 really did have some nice themes in all 3 regions. Some honorable mentions and other cool Splatfests that I read up on are burgers versus pizza, as well as cars versus planes in the Americas, land food versus seafood, as well as perfect mind versus perfect body in Japan, and world tour versus space adventure, as well as North Pole versus South Pole in Europe. Moving on to Splatoon 2, this is where they started taking Splatfest to the next level. Each Splatfest had a gimmicky shifty station map made for it, some Splatfests had their own exclusive decorations, and there was the introduction of the anxiety-inducing 10x and 100x battle. Even though this Splatfest was a normal one, action versus comedy was one of my favorites in this game. As fun as action movies are to watch, I was raised on shows like Medea and Drake and Josh, so I went on Team Comedy. This Splatfest was very fun to take part in, and the zone of glass shifty station that came with it made me think that someone was hacking or lagging at least once per game. I know this Splatfest lives on in the minds of others because some people still have profile pictures from it. Also, that was the first Splatfest I ever won in Splatoon 2 if we don't count the demo, so you know, that's a good memory. Now, Splatoon 2 also hosted Splatfests that acted like tournaments and took place over 3 different weekends. In Japan, it was based on Hello Kitty, and in everywhere else, it was based on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the heroes in a half shell themselves. I was on teams Leo and Donnie, and while Leo got defeated by Raph in the first round, Donnie beat out Mikey in the first round and Raph in the second, securing his rightful position as the best Ninja Turtle of all time. As fun as that Splatfest marathon was, I sure was struggling to keep up with it. It was like being thirsty and instead of Nogami handing you a bottle of water to drink, he body slams you and forces you to chug a whole gallon of water instead. After this Splatfest, you'd think that one shortly after would all be even more mind-blowing. And well, not completely. Honestly, most of Splatoon 2 Splatfests were fine, but some of them I just look at and go, okay. Like, I can tell for some of these that the devs responsible for coming up with the themes had no idea what they wanted to do at the time. Went out to dinner, stared at the table, and went, that's it! Something similar probably happened with Front Row versus Back Row, except in a gas station bathroom. But all was forgiven when they gave us the seasonal Splatfest. Splatoween, Frosty Fest, Spring Fest, Final Fest. These were some of the most critically acclaimed Splatfests in Splatoon 2's history, and something we bullied Nintendo for until they gave these events to us in Splatoon 3. The square was completely remodeled to suit the theme in question. The theme sparked a ton of debate, and the Splatfest will go for 24 or even 48 hours longer than normal. Despite all of you telling me otherwise, Chaos vs. Order even ended up inspiring Splatoon 3 and its DLC. In Final Fest, you were much more likely to get a multiplayer match, so as long as you played for at least a couple of hours, people who previously couldn't find 100x battles were bound to experience that adrenaline rush. Your boy ended off that Splatfest with over 700,000 points of clout in normal battles. And we still lost. But that was still an incredible way to end Splatoon 2. Some honorable mentions of mine go to Flight vs. Invisibility, that I placed 14th in the world in, by the way. Fries vs. McNuggets, which really should have taken place in the US too, since we were where McDonald's was founded. And Squid vs. Octopus, where you could play as an Octoling even if you hadn't bought the Octo expansion yet. I was not poor though, so I unlocked that feature well before the Splatfest and was free to go on Team Squid. On a completely unrelated note, if you click the first link in the description, you can become a member of mine and get bloopers for videos like these every couple of months. You know, something tells me it's bad business to insult possible customers before advertising your products to them. And that takes us to Splatoon 3. Now, in case you've been in a coma for 2 years, Splatfest and Splatoon 3 have 3 teams now instead of 2. In theory, it would give Nintendo the ability to try some different ideas while making sure each side's matches would count. In execution, that did not always happen. However, when it did, it made for some super fun Splatfests. I rambled about this in a past video, but one of my favorite Splatfests in Splatoon 3 is the Triforce Splatfest. The most popular team was less than 6% more popular than the least popular team, and the devs made an effort to design a tricolor map from the ground up instead of just slapping spawn points on the hips of one of the existing stages. It would have been even better if Team Wisdom didn't get its jaw kicked in, but alas, you can't win them all, and some of the all-knowing prophets you believe in are nothing but frauds and shams. Another one of my favorites was actually the Apocalypse Splatfest. I don't know what it is about them, but I enjoy the Splatfest themes like this, or family versus friends, that help me learn more about how people think. I was on Team Save the Day, and while it did not go well for us, I had a ton of fun during it. I'd be that person to do whatever I could to save the world, even if that's just helping out the professionals. But I can understand people who prefer to spend that time living a simple day or exploring the world before it ends. What I won't understand is people who go on bucket lists for the most basic things, or things that would just be worse than doing nothing. Like, you mean to tell me that you're gonna let the world burn so you can try fast food one more time or commit crimes? Imagine saying to the scientists working around the clock to save the world, sorry man, I gotta try one more Happy Meal before I go down. Or, you have fun with that, I'm gonna go commit a felony while I still can. Honestly, for anyone who joined Bucket List for crime-related reasons, you won 2 things. You won both the Splatfest and a nice cozy spot on the FBI watch list. Now remember the seasonal Splatfest I was talking about in Splatoon 2? Well, after a year of it looking looking like those were part of a bygone era, we got each of them back in Splatoon 3. Plus they threw in an extra one in the form of Summer Nights, which was beautiful. Each of these Splatfests went even more all out with the decorations, the idol outfits, and the music. Now all you gotta do to really make these seasonal Splatfests on another level, Nintendo, is to add the city skyboxes into the multiplayer. You got the code for the Springfest skybox, just Control-C, Control-V it into the Turf War code. That'll work, I promise! I say knowing absolutely nothing about video game development. Now in terms of the Splatfest that I didn't care about in Splatoon 3, one of them was Friday versus Saturday versus Sunday. I know you think I'm going to say that I didn't like the Splatfest because of how unbalanced it was. The team Saturday was way too popular and the people on that team hardly ever had their matches count. And while that did all happen and only 30% of my matches mattered, the main reason was because I was coughing up a lung from COVID all weekend and I decided it's the Splatfest's fault. And that brings us to the present day, where Rice has won the most recent Splatfest, Fry is up to 3 dubs, and at least 70% of the players with backgrounds in this region have had their Splatfest wins increased by 1. There's still many Splatfests I enjoy that I didn't talk about, like the Music Splatfest, the Medieval Splatfest, or the Splatfest that's going to get a rerun with 1 extra option in about 18 days from now. So if there's one that you think deserves more love or more shade, let me know in the comments below. Now if you want something to watch until the Grand Festival begins, check out this series where I turn Splatoon 3 into a Nuzlocke. Also remember to leave a like and subscribe to Outstar716 for more content on Splatoon 3 and other things gaming, including the upcoming Grand Festival that I'll be streaming right here on this channel. I'll see you all next time.